Okay, I have a new understanding of how this works. Because it was right here, standing with the window as the light source, looking at this smokestack, that I realized that when you get right here, there's a straight line of a light line. On the back side, it's shadowed, no light hitting it. On the front side, it's 100%. And right here, 90 degrees to the light source, you get a straight line shadow from the light that's hitting it from the outside. My new understanding is that the way these burn, and it explains all of these, is instead of the light hitting it from the outside, the same exact burn pattern would be produced if the light came up from the inside and grounded out in one direction or another. On a circular cylindrical object, no matter which angle it grounds out from or comes in from, the light line, the shadow, is going to be a straight line on either side, 90 degrees opposite of the direction of the light source. On a square post, so my neighbor's house has two of these telephone poles that were burned just like that. On one side, with a straight line, burn line going down both sides. That's where this square post came from. And it is burned on two sides, all the way up and down, straight line. Completely burned on these two sides. This one has a straight line, but it overlaps the corner just a little bit, and I'll explain that as well. But it's for the most part, completely unburned on this side and on this side. And then it has a perfectly straight line burn on both corners, with the exception that on the other one, this one is a perfect straight line burn right on the natural corner of where the board is manufactured. And the light exiting from the inside would produce the same exact burn pattern. So with a square post like this came from my neighbor's house right next to two telephone poles that had the straight line burn. With a square post like this, there's only one specific angle where you can only see one side. So whether the light's hitting it from the outside or coming from the inside and grounding out, there's only one small angle on each side where it would burn only one side. From here, you're burning two sides. If the light source is coming from this angle, it only burns one side. But from here, it's burning two sides. Clear over to here, it's still burning two sides because you can still see part of that side. Only from right here would it burn one side if the light source was coming from this direction. As soon as you get here, you're starting to burn these two sides again if the light source is coming from this direction. On one of these round poles, it doesn't matter which direction you're at. You're always going to get a whole 180 degrees of it and a straight line burn exactly 90 degrees perpendicular of the light source if it's coming from the outside, or the grounding source if the light comes up and through and then grounds outward in one direction or another. And it's not always the same direction. Over here at my neighbor's house, right here, and this is going to explain the trees that are only burnt on one side, that I've made a video where there's four of them, all four of them only burnt on one side. Instead of the light hitting it from the outside like, oh, the sun's hotter, the electromagnetic frequencies coming up like the light coming up through the roots and then grounding out makes it burn on one side. And it generally on this tree obviously tends toward that side because the opposite side of this tree is still green. On my neighbor's house, let me go out there for a second. On the back side of his house is where that square pole came from. And right next to it is two telephone poles that were burnt on that side. Down the road this direction, if you go down the road and take a right, all the telephone poles along that road are burnt on that side, the south side. So over here they're burnt on the south side. Over there they're burnt on the north side. So from one fire to a next, the direction that they are burned from and ground to changes, but in each individual fire, all the branches are burned on the same side. This also explains the trees with the straight line burn. Only burn on one side, not burned on this side. Only on this side. You can't see the straight line burn too well there, maybe like right here. Because the branch curves a bit, the line curves a bit, but ultimately, right here, you can see that the burn line goes straight down. So, on some of the fires, the branches will all be burned on the bottom and unburned on the top side, or vice versa. In other fires, they'll all be burned on the left side, going out this direction, whatever, the north side. In each specific fire, they're all burned on the same side, whether it's north, south, east, west, whatever the direction. So possibly the energy is coming up through, and it depends on time of day. If it's high noon, all the branches are burned on the top side of the branch. If it's midnight, say the positive wire is the electromagnetics of the earth, the negative wire is where it grounds to either the moon or the sun. Let's say it's the sun. That would mean at midnight, if one of these fires happens, the electromagnetics comes up through and burns all the branches on the bottom because the sun is straight below the earth. If it happens at high noon, the electromagnetics comes up through the branches and then burns on the top side of the branches because it grounds out that direction. So instead of the light hitting it from the outside and creating these burn patterns, whether it's on the trees, the telephone poles, the square branches, or the tree branches, this explains it better because the light source on the tree branches can't be coming from the ground. When they all burn on the bottom, the light source in that case can be coming up through the tree branch and then grounding back downward because that's the direction of the ground wire, the black wire. So the red wire is connected to the roots, and the black wire, depending on time of day, it can be anywhere 360 on the horizon. If it's sunrise or noon, or if it's sunset, or if it's midnight, that's what determines which direction the electricity coming up through is going to go after it comes up through. So that's why the burn line on all of these, the burn line on this branch, is very much like the burn line on this square pole, because this square pole has no roots. But it could still have drawn the energy from the ground because it was planted 3 or 4 feet into the ground, maybe only a couple feet. See how straight that line is? So this obviously seems to be the case that the light is coming up through the inside, but it first occurred to me right here when I understood the shadow line and how it would hit two sides of a square post like this, from almost every angle except the very specific angle, when this square post was standing next to 2 telephone poles that also had straight line burn on them, and I saw this right here and the light source here, and it occurred to me, but in the reverse of what I believe it actually is. Instead of the light hitting it from the outside producing those burn patterns, it's coming up through the inside, obviously. By the way, these are turning out pretty good. Coming up through the inside. Because these would be burned from the outside, so it comes up through the inside and then grounds out in one direction or another. And this square pole, the grounding direction had to be, because it burned both sides, it had to burn these two sides, and I'll tell you exactly which direction it was from. Because it burned one side a little more than the other, so I can tell you precisely what direction the ground went. Here it would have only burned one side. Here it would have burned both sides, clear over to here. But because this one, the burn line overlaps the corner just slightly. The corner is approximately here. And it overlaps it by a finger width. That's perpendicular. So the other one, it's a straight line burn. My point is, this is center. It burned from this side right here. Because it burned this side more than this side. That's why this one has a straight line burn exactly on the manufactured corner. And this side overlaps a finger width. So that means the burn, that would be center and evenly burn them. It burned it more toward this side. So it came from approximately that angle if it came from the outside, but it didn't. It came from the inside, and so this would be perfectly centered. The ground was approximately this direction from the square pole, and that's why it overlapped this corner and gave this corner over here a perfect edge. And I left my moon rock here for a reason. Now we have a reverse understanding of this. Instead of light hitting it from the outside, the light is coming from the inside and grounding out. The red wire is down there. The black wire is out here somewhere. This is a reverse Mandela effect. In the Mandela effect, it's usually only a few people that remember something differently than it now is. In this case, it's 99% of people remember something differently than it now is. Remember when I asked my buddy Dusty, picture the moon in your mind, half moon, picture it in your mind, and he said, right half or left half? I said, exactly, right half or left half? Is it right half, left half, or top half, bottom half? Jeff, it's right half, left half, Jeff. Like I was insulting his intelligence by even asking. And I told him, no, it's not. It does top half, bottom half on a regular basis now, and you can watch it turn. It'll rise on one horizon, a vertical light line, half moon, and set on the other horizon, horizontal light line. 99% of people remember it vertical. If it was always like that. And the reason I know this is because so many people have commented in comment sections that they've never seen it that way before. Not a couple people who are the outcast, like in the Mandela effect. 99% of people don't remember a horizontal light line on the half moon. That is a change in our skies that is so obvious and blatant that we can't even face the truth. And it's right there in our skies every month. At the first half of the month, it lands on one horizon as a top half. During the second half, it lands as a bottom half, or vice versa. Maybe it's the first half of the month, the waxing moon, where it lands on one horizon as a bottom half. And then once it's after full moon and it's waning moon, it lands as a top half. Just saying, put that in your pipe and smoke it.